I am Ashwini Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Babu Banarsi Das University, Lucknow. In previous lecture, we had studied about the semiconductor physics, and in this we had studied the intrinsic semiconductor and extrinsic semiconductor. In extrinsic semiconductor, we had studied about the p-type semiconductor and n-type semiconductor. Now in today's lecture, we are going to discuss about a very important device known as p-n junction diode. So let us start the p-n junction diode. If a single piece of a semiconductor material, half portion is doped by the p-type impurity and another half portion is doped by n-type impurity as shown in the figure, then the plane which divides the two regions is called as junction, and we get a p-n junction. This p-n junction makes a useful device called as p-n junction diode or semiconductor diode. Now we will study about the junction theory. The most important characteristics of junction is its ability to conduct current in one direction only. That is, it supports unidirectional current. In the other direction, it means in reverse direction, it offers very high resistance. Now we need to study the working principle of p-n junction diode. To understand the behavior of p-n junction, there is a need of dividing working principle in three parts: p-n junction with no external bias, p-n junction with forward bias, p-n junction with reverse bias. Here biasing means applying battery to the circuit. Now we will start p-n junction with no external bias. In this diagram it is clear that there is no battery. The figure shows the situation where junction has just been formed. At that instant, the holes are still there in p region and electrons are in n region. Now we observe that concentration of holes in p region is far greater than the concentration of holes in n region. Similarly, concentration of electrons in n region is far greater than the concentration of electrons in n region. It means there is a concentration gradient across the junction. Due to this concentration gradient, charge carriers, that is free electrons and holes, start to diffuse. Holes from p region diffuse into n region. Similarly, free electrons from n region diffuse into p region. In this process, these electrons and holes combine with each other and get eliminated. It appears that all the holes from p type and all the electrons from n type will be recombined, and thus all the holes and electrons will disappear and we will be left with intrinsic semiconductor again. But surely this does not happen. Formation of depletion layer. The diffusion of holes and free electrons across the junction occurs for a very short time. After a few recombination of holes and electrons in the immediate neighborhood of the junction, we get parallel layers of opposite charges facing each other as shown in the figure. This is the depletion layer which is formed across the junction. This depletion layer stops further recombination of electrons and holes. Let us understand this. Suppose a hole from p region is succeeded to enter the depletion region and tries to cross the junction. Then the layer of positive charges in the n-type region will repel these holes back to p region, and if electron from n region is succeeded to to enter the depletion region and tries to cross the junction. Then the layer of negative charges in the p-type region will repel this electron back to n region. Let us investigate this. Suppose a hole from p region is succeeded to enter the depletion region in order to cross the junction. Then there are chances that this hole will be captured by the layer of fixed impurity ions, that is negatively charged ions. Then there are chances that this hole will be captured by the layer of fixed impurity ions, that is negatively charged fixed ions in this case. Hence this hole is neutralized by the layer of fixed ions. Similarly, suppose a free electron from n region is succeeded to enter the depletion region in order to cross the junction. Then there are chances that this free electron will be captured by the layer of fixed impurity ions, positively charged fixed ions in this case. Hence this free electron is neutralized by the layer of fixed ions. So we can summarize that under no bias condition, free electrons and holes are not allowed to cross the junction. The region containing the uncompensated acceptor and donor ions is known as depletion region. Why it is called depletion? Because there is a depletion of mobile charges, holes and electrons in this region. This region is also called as space charge region. Now junction potential or barrier potential. Now we will study about the junction potential or barrier potential. From the figure it is clear that depletion region has oppositively charged layer of fixed ions on its two sides as shown in the figure. Because of this charge separation, an electric potential difference VB is established across the junction. This is known as junction potential or barrier potential. At room temperature, barrier potential is, for silicon, this barrier potential is 0.7 volt and for germanium it is 0.3 volt. Electric field between acceptor ions and donor ions is called a barrier as shown in the figure. Note, junction potential is also known as height of the barrier. The thickness of the depletion region is about 10 to the power minus 6 meter. Now we have completed p-n junction without any bias. Now we will study p-n junction with forward biased. It means now we are going to apply battery in p-n junction diode. So let us connect a battery. If battery is connected in p-n junction such that positive terminal of the battery is connected to p-type and negative terminal is connected to n-type, then p-n junction is said to be in forward bias condition. In forward biasing, holes in the p-type are repelled by the positive terminal of the battery and moves towards the junction. Free electrons in n-type are repelled by the negative terminal of the battery and therefore moves towards the junction. There are chances that holes from p-type recombine with the negatively charged acceptor ions and free electrons from n-type recombine with the positively charged donor ions, and hence depletion width is reduced as shown in the figure. Because depletion width is reduced, so potential barrier is also reduced. Therefore, a continuous flow of electrons and holes start across the junction, and we say a continuous current starts to flow across the junction. This current is called as forward current. Direction of this forward current is from p-type to n-type. and this is the direction of the conventional current. This current is due to majority carriers, holes in p-type region and free electrons in n-type region. Direction of the forward current is from p region to n region. To summarize, we can say whenever forward biasing is applied across the p-n junction, due to lowering of potential barrier, a forward current is set up across the junction, which flows from p-type region to n-type region. Now we will study p-n junction with reverse bias. If battery is connected in p-n junction such that negative terminal of the battery is connected to p-type and positive terminal of the battery is connected to n-type, then p-n junction is said to be in reverse bias condition. Now in reverse bias, we observe following things. Holes in the p region are attracted towards the negative terminal of the battery, and free electrons in n region are attracted towards the positive terminal of the battery. This action widens the depletion region, hence potential barrier is increased. In the diagram it is clear that depletion width has increased, and that is why potential barrier is also increased. To summarize, we say that whenever a p-n junction is reverse bias, the depletion width is increased, which in turn increases the barrier potential. This increased barrier potential makes it more difficult for the majority carriers to cross the junction. It means junction offers high resistance to the forward current. This increased barrier potential stops the majority carriers to flow across the junction, but it helps the minority carriers. Minority carriers means free electrons in p-type region and holes in n-type region to cross the junction. This increased barrier potential stops the majority carriers to flow across the junction, but it helps the minority carriers, free electrons in p-type region and holes in n-type region to cross the junction. The rate of generation of minority carriers depends on the breaking of covalent bonds, and breaking of covalent bonds depends on temperature. If the temperature is fixed, the rate of generation of minority carriers is also remain constant. It means this current, which is due to the flow of minority carrier, is fixed at a given temperature. Direction of this current is from n-type region to p-type region. That is why this current is called as reverse current, because this current depends on temperature and remains constant for a given temperature. That is why this current is called as reverse saturation current. This is very small as the number of minority carriers are very small. It is of the order of nanoamperes for silicon diode and microamperes for germanium diode. This is the VI characteristics of the p-n junction diode. In this graph, we see that in the first quadrant there is a forward biasing, and after knee voltage, current starts increasing. Knee voltage for silicon is 0.7 volt and for germanium it is 0.3 volt. And in the left part of the graph we see the reverse biasing, where current is almost zero. Now we will discuss about the ideal diode. Below shows the VI characteristics of the ideal diode. It shows that ideal diode does not require any voltage to be in on condition, unlike the silicon diode which requires 0.7 volt and germanium diode which requires 0.3 volt to conduct in forward biasing. An ideal diode does not allow any current when reverse biased. It means it offers zero resistance in forward biasing condition and infinite resistance in reverse biasing condition. Ideal diode is a hypothesis and cannot be made practically. This is the diode symbol. Here left portion is called as anode and right portion is called as cathode. The left portion is the P type and rightmost is the N type, and direction of conventional current is from P type to N type. Now we have studied about the PN junction and its behavior in different biasing conditions such as forward biasing and reverse biasing. Now we have studied about the PN junction and junction theory. Now we have knowledge about the forward biasing and reverse biasing. So let us solve some diode numericals. For the following diode network, find the current I in the circuit. Here we see a silicon diode is given, a battery of 2 volt is applied and a load of 10 ohm is applied. To solve the diode numericals, the first step should be to check the biasing of the diode, whether it is in forward biasing condition or in reverse biasing condition. From the diagram it is clear that P type of the diode is connected to the positive terminal of the battery and N type is connected to the negative terminal of the battery. It means diode is in forward bias condition, so it will allow the current to pass through it. But silicon diode requires 0.7 volt to conduct, means to allow the current to pass through it. So we say that since diode is in forward bias condition and silicon diode requires 0.7 volt to allow the current to flow, therefore voltage drop across load resistance will be V, which is 2 minus 0.7 volt. Because total supply voltage is 2 volt, 0.7 volt is taken by silicon, so rest of the 1.3 volt will be available across the resistance. So we get V as 1.3 volt. Now we have to calculate the current through the circuit. We know that I equals to V upon R. So I equals to 1.3 volt upon 10 ohm. That is, we get I equals to 0.13 ampere. Now we will be solving the same question, but in this case silicon diode is replaced by the germanium diode. Here polarity suggests that this diode is also in forward biasing condition. Since diode is in forward bias condition and germanium diode requires 0.3 volt to allow the current to flow, so voltage drop which will be available across the 10 ohm will be 2 minus 0.3 volt, that is V will be equals to 1.7 volt. So current through the circuit is I equals to V upon R, that is I equals to 1.7 volt upon 10 ohm, that is we get I is equals to 0.17 ampere. Now in this question we have to find the current I in the circuit. The first step is that one should check the proper biasing of the diode. Here we see that silicon diode is in reverse biasing because N type is connected to the plus terminal of the battery and P type is connected to the minus terminal of the battery. So diode will be in reverse biasing condition, and diode in reverse biasing condition does not allow any forward current to flow. So it is clear that I will be equals to 0 ampere. I have taken the same question again but replacing silicon diode with the germanium diode. Same condition will also be applied here. Germanium diode is in reverse bias condition, so it will not allow any forward current. It means current will be equals to 0 ampere. For the following diode network, find the current I in the circuit. This is very important question. Since battery polarity suggests that diode goes in forward biasing condition, but still diode is not conducting, it means diode is still not in forward biasing condition. Why? Because silicon diode requires 0.7 volt to allow the current to pass through it, but the battery voltage is 0.5 volt, which is smaller than 0.7 volt. So despite being in forward bias condition, there will not be any current because silicon diode is not in conducting mode. Because silicon diode is not conducting, it means there will not be any current flowing in the circuit. So I will be equals to 0 ampere. For the following diode network, find the current I in the circuit. In this circuit diagram, we see that there are two diodes, silicon and germanium diode, and both the diodes are in forward bias condition according to the polarity of the battery. So voltage drop across resistance R is 8 minus 0.7 minus 0.3, that is 8 minus 1 volt, that is 7 volt. It means the supply voltage is 8 volt, 0.7 volt will be taken by silicon and 0.3 volt will be taken by germanium diode, and rest of the voltage will be available across the resistance R. So 1 volt drop is taken by these two diodes. So resultant 8 minus 1, that is 7 volt will be available across the resistance R. So VR will be equals to 7 volt. Now we can find the current I equals to V by R. V is equals to 7 volt and resistance is 2.2 kilo ohm. So 7 by 2.2 kilo ohm, that is we get I is equals to 3.18 milliampere. For the following diode network, we have to find the current I and voltage across the resistance R. In the circuit diagram, we see that there are two diodes, silicon and germanium diode, and polarity suggests that silicon diode is in forward bias condition and germanium diode is in reverse bias condition. Because germanium diode is off, so it is replaced by an open circuit as seen in the diagram. Therefore current in the circuit is 0, that is I will be equals to 0 ampere, because germanium diode is not in conducting position. It will not allow any current to pass through. Because there is no current flowing through the R, so there will be no voltage drop across it. So VR will be equals to I into R, that is I equals to 0. So voltage drop will be equals to 0 volt. For the following diode network, find the VD1 and VD2 in the circuit. This is the same question as we have taken in the previous question, but in this question I also want to know about the voltage drop across silicon and germanium diode. In the previous question we have seen that there is no current flowing in the circuit because germanium diode is in reverse bias condition and therefore behaves as an open circuit as shown in the diagram. So VR equals to 0 volt as we have already found. Because germanium diode is open circuit, so all of the voltage will be available across the germanium diode. So VD2 means voltage drop across germanium diode will be 8 volt and VD1, that is voltage drop across silicon, will be 0 volt and VR equals to 0 volt. For the following diode network, we have to find I1, I2 and V0 in the circuit diagram. In this question, polarity of the battery suggests that both the diodes are in forward bias condition. It means voltage drop across the germanium diode will be 0.3 volt and voltage drop across the silicon diode will be 0.7 volt as shown in the figure. Here we see that germanium and silicon diodes are parallel to each other, but we know that voltage across two parallel components will remain same. Two parallel components cannot have two different voltages across each other. Now question arises that what will be the voltage across the two diodes, because now it has been discovered that both the components will be having same voltage. So there are two cases. Case 1, both the diode will have 0.3 volt across them, or case 2, both the diode will have 0.7 volt across them. But clearly case 2 is not possible, because the moment germanium diode gets 0.3 volt, it starts conducting current. It means voltage drop of 0.7 volt across the germanium diode is not possible. it means case 1 will be there, and both the diodes will be having 0.3 volt across them. Case 1 is possible, which is shown in the figure. In this case, both the diodes are having 0.3 volt available across them. It means germanium diode will be in on condition, but silicon diode will not be in on condition, it will be in off condition. Means it will not allow the current to pass through it, despite being the polarity suggests that diode is in forward bias condition. It means silicon diode will not allow the current to pass through it, or we can say silicon diode will behave as an open circuit as shown in the diagram. Now the circuit is more simplified as shown in the figure, because silicon diode is not conducting any current, so it can be removed from the circuit. Now circuit has become very simplified. There are only one component, that is germanium diode. From the figure it is clear that I1 will be equals to I2. Now we can find the current I2, which is flowing through resistance 4.7 kilo ohm. So voltage across 4.7 kilo ohm is V0, and from the figure it is clear that out of 16 volt, 0.3 volt is taken by germanium, and rest of the voltage will be available across the resistance 4.7 kilo ohm. That is, we get V0 as 16 minus 0.3, that is 15.7 volt. That is, we get I2 is equal to V0 upon R is equals to 15.7 volt upon 4.7 kilo ohm. That is, we get 3.34 milliampere. It means I1 is equal to I2 is equals to 3.34 milliampere.